And welcome back to Hannity as we continue now with Eli Lake and Sara. All right, is there any indication that any of the unmasking requests of Susan Rice had to do with anything other than the incidental surveillance of Trump transition members, associates, or is this just exclusively on Trump? Do we know, either one of you?
Well, I'd say at this point, we still have a lot of unanswered questions, and, you know, it would be interesting to find out if I'd like to hear from, I also reached out to Susan Rice, we'd like to hear from her exactly what her rationale was on all of this.
Why would we believe her? She went on 5 Sunday shows and lied repeatedly about Benghazi. How can you trust her?
Well, I still think that we should give the benefit of the doubt. I mean, we're making some serious accusations here. I'd like to hear her side of it. You're correct that on Benghazi, she gave the story about the internet video, but I would just kind of go back and I'd say that I think at the beginning of this investigation, and what we may end up finding out is that the law that allows the U.S. government to collect all this information and share it within the government needs to seriously be reformed, because it may turn out that all of what Susan Rice did was technically legal but improper, if you will. And in that case, I think it would be a matter of reform. And I would just say this. I'm surprised that more Democrats and progressives have not taken this issue more seriously. Because if Barack Obama can do this to the Trump transition, then surely Donald Trump can do this to his own opposition, and that's something that ought to worry all Americans.
But it goes even deeper, Sara, because her unmasking set the stage, if you will, for the leaking that took place. We know a felony was committed in the case of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. So, you know, why would they want to know all of these things? And maybe this was the whole false narrative thing that Evelyn Farkas was talking about, that a lot of people might have now known.
Yes, and I think we need those answers. I agree with Eli wholeheartedly on this. This is a civil liberties issue. It's huge. It deals with the Fourth Amendment.
It's also spying. Yeah, it's unreasonable search and seizure.
Exactly. And I think that there's something else. You know, a number of sources that I've spoken to about this, and, you know, none of us have access to those transcripts. Those are highly classified. But what we do know is what they've told us. They have nothing to do with Russia, apparently, and apparently there was no foreign intelligence value, according to people who have had access to this. So then they have to ask that question, and they have to answer those questions, right? Why were they looking at these transcripts?
Now, listen, you know what you're describing? You're describing, and maybe if they technically shifted the law without anybody paying attention, they seem to be using, under the guise of national security and legitimate surveillance, an opportunity to do something worse than Watergate, which is to spy on a presidential candidate, opposition party, and an incoming president, a president-elect, and his transition team. That's what it looks like to me. Does that look that way to you, Sara?
Yeah, I think that they need to ask those questions. I think the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, and certainly in the case of the leaking of Michael Flynn's name, there needs to be a full investigation where people can be subpoenaed and a grand jury can be called.
Russia, it had nothing to do with it, and now we learn that this whole Russian conspiracy is a lie. True or false?
We don't know everything yet, Sean. But what we do know is as soon as we keep peeling this layer of this onion back, we'll get more and more answers.
We know there's
and the
no
American
evidence.
people.
We know there's no evidence of any collusion.
Yeah, we know. Well, we definitely know that the only evidence out there is that someone leaked very classified information and an American name regarding a classified transcript, and that was the law that was broken.
All right, I got to let you go.